Super. Lovely to be here with all of you. Is this the first event here, Vidya, that you're doing? First, second? One of the earlier ones?
Probably like the third.
Okay, lovely. So much happiness to bring good joy and good vibes to a new place. And this is a new home for you as well. So wishing all of them the very best. When Malti asked me to speak here today, I had a choice. I could have done a PowerPoint presentation on, Navaratri, and I think that's a no-brainer. I'm sure on YouTube you'll find a lot of it. But what she said was, can we do a little bit more on the essence of why we do this? And my own preference is to talk about how to make abstract concepts like, history and boring facts more relevant to our lives today. And I thought then the best way to not do it is to use a PPT. Because if you look at the way Indian philosophy has grown, it's never a sermon. It's always been a dialogue. Right? And some of the greatest people who've been a part of this dialogue have been intelligent people who've asked very smart questions. And almost all the time, those people have been women. So I'm very happy that there are a fair number of women in the group today, and I hope you will continue like Gargi and Maitreyi and others to ask intelligent questions, because there's no fun in doing a conversation. There's no fun in doing a talk on festivals, especially Hindu festivals, if there are no questions. I think the way the Indian knowledge grows is by asking questions, by dialogue rather than by monologue. So I'm going to start asking a few questions. I think I have about half an hour, 45 minutes. So it can be a very, very dreary half an hour, 45 minutes if none of you respond. But it can be a fascinating half an hour, 45 minutes if we respond, and hopefully we'll both learn something at the end of it. My first question is, this whole title that we've given is, good or bad, evil or good, and inside or outside. Yeah? I'd love to hear some of you talk in very, very succinctly. Tell me, what is good or evil for you? I mean, if you have to define good and evil, what does it mean? I'd love to hear one or two people answer this.
Good is anything that brings health and positive things to others.
Okay.
Evil is something which brings out, which drives away the health of others.
Okay. Sure. Others?
I would associate good with positivity.
Okay.
And evil with some kind of intense negativity.
Okay, so if I'm really angry with somebody, I just blast my head off. I feel damn good at the end of it. So is that something that I'm doing which is good? But there seems to be some other angle to it. No, I think these are things that we grapple with every day in our lives. Staff not coming at home. I'm dealing with a teenage son, so I'm snapping at him almost all the time. I don't know whether he's snapping at me all the time also. But I think this is where philosophy and festivals and all that become very practical, right? So I'd love to hear more definitions on good and evil. Yeah. Celebrating God's creation. Those are beautiful words, but at a very tangible, tactical level for you, what would they be? Like what Vidya said or that gentleman said.
Well, you enable some creating or nurturing something that will help others.
Okay.
Helping others directly, being kind, not being hateful. So these are all things which are, and treating all God's creation, in the same plane.
Okay. Right. One more. Does anyone else want to go? Yeah, go ahead.
It is like what you think makes yourself feel good as well as others. So
Right.
it's like a balance where you feel good but you're doing good for the society.
Right. I like that. So I think he's built a little bit more on what you said. So most of you are looking at more at the outside world. I think there's some part of it which is I have to feel good as well, right? So that's also more. Yes, one last one. Thank you. Yes, sir.
But I believe that common people are not evil intrinsically. They may get angry, they may be petty, but they are too small to call it evil. But on the other hand, if you go higher up the ladder, into presidents and kings and nawabs and people like that, they can create havoc and they can create evil.
Right.
That's where evil comes in.
Right. Okay. So I think you bring a new dimension of small people and small-minded people, maybe, right? So I think, yeah. So that's another angle to it. So if you, yes, ma'am. Last one, yes, ma'am.
I feel that evil can be defined if there is something that is conniving or there's something inside that's making the objective is to hurt somebody else.
Okay.
So it's more from the personality. If that personality is wanting to hate someone or wanting to bring someone down, either emotionally, physically, or something, and does it on a consistent manner,
Right.
then you can define that person as evil.
Right. So I think you're bringing this aspect of intention inside also, right? And I mean, I think I can't remember the name of the book, but it's this fascinating story. I saw this in a play a long time back. A Hindu king in Karnataka is married to a Jain queen, okay? And the Jain queen comes in for a lot of negative comments from the mother-in-law because she is not able to produce an heir to the kingdom. And ultimately, the story goes that the mother-in-law and the priests and everybody, they decide that what needs to be done for the child to be born is a putra kameshti yagam, right? Now, it turns out, apparently, in the way they wanted to do it, animals have to be sacrificed, which is okay for the Hindu king because he's non-vegetarian, which is not okay for the Jain queen because she practices ahimsa. So, some part of the play is about when are we violent? When the thought is there, are we violent? Or only when the action is there, we're violent. So I think it goes back to your point of intention, right? So if the intention itself is violence, then am I a violent person? I might think sometimes I might want to, kill the guy who's violating the traffic rule in front of me. But I might not actually carry it out. I might just speak a few cuss words against him. So am I being violent or not is a very interesting question to ask, but we need to come back to my syllabus that I've agreed with Malati that I'm going to cover today. I think all of you brought in a lot of aspects of what is essentially good and evil. We looked at my needs as a person. We looked at the other needs of a person. Something that I didn't hear a lot maybe was the context of time also. So when we look at good and evil, when we look at doing something for somebody else, yes, my needs need to be met. The other person's needs also need to be met. But this is also in the context of how much of time. Is this sustainable? Is this not sustainable? Is this in the short term? Is this in the long term? So this some aspect of this understanding of good and evil really came from a non-biased point of view, which is a concept called Rita. Rita in the Rigvedic times was a concept, some kind of a god, divine person, which is basically the sky. And the sky sees everything, but it does not judge. And the earliest conversations around what is good and evil came from a point of where you have to talk about good and evil as something that continues to be good and evil over a long period of time. And Rita was the kind of a order from which this came, and the order of Rita became something that would not only help serve each of our needs, it would also serve the needs of other people, which I think we all agreed on. But one important aspect of that was also in the short term and in the long term. I think that was a very important thing. And this whole Sanatana word that's under a lot of dispute today, it comes from the origin of the word Sanatana. Actually, it's from a Buddhist text, but it starts around this concept of Rita, of something that is eternal, can be eternal only when my needs are fulfilled, your needs are fulfilled in the short term and in the long term. So in this transaction today, if my need is fulfilled and you go back feeling, hey, I think I gave a lot more than I got, it is going to harm your relationship with me. I would have got what I wanted, but in the long term, it's unlikely that I can't fool all the people all the time. So you're going to be more wary with me and say, I'm not going to help you next time until I get this. So then the relationship is broken. Yeah. So this concept of good and evil, therefore, is good would be something that helps us fulfill our needs and fulfills the needs of others in the short term and the long term. Evil, something that does not do that. Maybe it fulfills my need, doesn't fulfill somebody else's need. Certainly something that's very short term focused, not very long term focused. The core of this good and evil thing actually comes from a deeper concept called Purushartha. How many of you are familiar with this word Purushartha, right? Some of you who've gone for philosophy classes will probably understand that. So I'm going to give you a very, very simple way to understand that, and then I'll get into more into the details of how to connect it with the festival. What is one thing that's common for all living things? One thing that's at the basic level. What's one thing that's really common for all living things? Desire, right? I'll call it needs at a very simple, basic level. And we have good old Abraham Maslow's theory. Don't even need to go that far because all desires are desires. All needs are needs. Today, my need may be to capture your attention. It might be something as simple as that. Could be the need of what's Vidya going to serve us after this. Yeah, my tummy is already rumbling. Or do I have that bottle of water next to me just in case I get thirsty? All of these are needs of some sort. Maslow put it into hierarchies, but in Indian philosophy, we normally didn't put this into hierarchies. We just said all needs are important. Yeah. Reproduction is an important need. Food, shelter, companionship, contentment, even contribution. That I want to contribute to the betterment of somebody else. Yeah. Even somebody like Hitler had this need for contribution. It's just that he had that need for his supporters and not for the others. And I think this is where, when in the thick of the debates between Shankara and all of them with the Buddhists, this was probably would have been the what do I say, the touch point or the winning argument for the Advaitins and for the people who spoke on behalf of Hinduism, because even for somebody like Buddha, even for any philosopher, even for somebody like Mahavira, when they realized what was the path for getting out of samsara sagra, or this birth and death, which is what they were also looking for, right? They didn't sit back quietly under the tree and meditate about it. Even they had the need to contribute to the life of others to be able to share it to somebody else. So I think this is where I think they won and said, all of us have this fundamental need to be useful to somebody. And this is a very basic human need. We can't be, talking about being a monk is a good idea. And I'm sure we all want it at some point in time. We certainly want it for our children if they're obsessed with their phones and with their TVs and everything. But in practical life, even monks have a need. So this needs is something that's really, really important. And Malti is a better expert in Sanskrit than I am, and maybe some of you else are as well. I've never been able to find out, but it's Sanskrit, for such a logical language, it's played a trick on the word need. What is the word need in Sanskrit? Kama. What is the word for lust? Kama again. Yeah. So for a language which has a lot of synonyms, which has a lot of choice of words, interestingly, for needs is the same word. So because very quickly a need can be a lust. Very quickly it can change. And you see all these horrible things that we read in papers, right? It's people like you and me who've suddenly, the brain just doesn't work at that point in time, and a need becomes a lust. Something else that we can easily talk about needs is, how can you put a number to needs, right? What kind of a number will you put to needs when you talk about numbers, needs?
We ask on a scale of 1 to 10. For example, you want to eat out.
Right. No. Sorry, that's not the question that I had in mind. My question was, let me rephrase it. When we talk about needs or number of needs, right? What can we say about the number of needs that we have as people? Infinity, absolutely, right? We have so many needs, and right now, if you just take a few deep breaths, you will recognize that there are multiple needs that are going through your head, right? It could be as simple as, how am I going to get back home after this event? Uber or somebody's going to drop me, or something very basic like that. Yeah? It could be, what's going to be served, do we have a choice, etc. Is there some food there which I'm allergic to? Very basic. Right? It'll be much more. Could even be, when is this chap going to stop talking? Yeah, anything, any needs, and there are just so many needs that we have. And if one need gets fulfilled, it's like that hydra, right? That one need gets fulfilled, some 100 needs will come up at the same time. So needs are there all the time, right? Whether it's for human beings, for animals, for any living thing, needs are there all the time, and we can never come to a place where we can say that I don't have any needs. Yeah, it's impossible. Yeah. What fulfills a need? So need is karma. What fulfills a need? No, action doesn't fulfill a need. Yeah, but what are some things that fulfill needs that you have?
If you're contented, you don't have need.
Yeah, but we've just established, no, that can you ever be contented? Is it possible for us to be contented, ma'am, at all? Huh?
Drive towards an aim.
Yeah. So no, I think my question is different. What do you call things that fulfill needs? Money is an object. Money is an object. No, that's the feeling that you will get when a need is fulfilled. What are things that fulfill needs? Money is certainly something that fulfills a need. But let's ask a basic question. Is money a need or is it something that fulfills a need?
Fulfills the need.
Yeah, very good. Because and I do this with a lot of kids today, and I'm guessing those kids are, they're managed by helicopter parents or tiger moms or tiger dads. Many children struggle with money being a need and not something that fulfills a need. When you look at money as being a need, then there's very little joy you're going to get out of life, because any amount of money in the bank account is not going to be enough. Money is just an object that fulfills a need. Yeah. So what else could fulfill need? Money is one. What could fulfill my need now with you?
Attention.
No, attention. Yes. My need from you now is attention. Apart from attention, what else? Time could be one, definitely. Yeah. What else? Huh? Applause will be a result of attention. Responses, definitely. Conversation response is very good. Suppose in the context of this being not just short term, which is all of this was short term. Suppose this was long term. What would be the object that will fulfill my need?
Navaratri. How is Navaratri?
No, not recognition, but something like recognition. No, not knowledge. It will be something else. Knowledge will be now. So at the end of this talk, if you told me I really learned something new, that need will be fulfilled. But remember, we're talking about good and evil in the context of longer time. So in terms of longer time, what will be a need of mine? No. That will be one for sure. Calling me back again. So see, all of this is very, very practical stuff, yeah? So calling me back, no, there'll be something else.
Spreading the knowledge.
Spreading the knowledge will certainly be an object that will fulfill.
Fame, Lord.
Your legacy.
No, I'm talking about a tangible object.
A relationship.
A relationship, very good. Yes, absolutely. Yep. Interaction for sure. That's short term. But in the long term, it will be some examples of application. Right? Suppose out of the blue, a month later, somebody got my number through Malti or Vidya and said, hey, you spoke about this that day and it really worked. I have a lousy relationship with my sister-in-law, somebody, and this really sorted it out. I still think she's an idiot, but at least now I don't let it bother me. Right? That's an application, right? So that's good. So objects that fulfill needs are precious to us, and therefore they are artha. That's what our objects that fulfill needs are called, yeah. So if karma is unlimited, what about artha? Always. Artha is always limited, yeah. Even if you're talking about your attention span to me, it cannot be 100. It has a limit, yeah. So always when the demand is very high and the supply is very low, what happens? Price is high. So in needs and objects that fulfill needs, how might that play out?
It's hard to get objects.
It's hard to get objects. So when too many people are competing for the same thing, what happens? Conflict. Conflict happens, right? So conflict happens. So if too many people, and you see this, right? When two people work together and they start fighting with each other, it messes up the product and it messes up their relationships also. So conflict happens, yeah. So when conflict happens is where all this good and evil conversation, all of that comes in. We have two choices. One is the choice of what is called Matsya Nyaya, which is the law of the forest, where every animal in the forest, and this is not, all of you have seen a forest, right? You've all been to Jim Corbett or some wildlife sanctuary, something. I'm not talking about that forest. You're seeing it from an AC car. You know you'll get back to a comfortable hotel. Your meal is waiting for you. I'm not talking about that kind of forest. You just stay in the forest without knowing when your next meal is going to come. In that kind of a forest, everything that you see around you is either prey or predator. Okay? So the dominant emotion of anybody in a forest will typically be, that's a response, but the emotion or the feeling, fear will be always deadening fear. Yeah. So in that kind of a situation, it will always be predator or prey. So it's either fight or flight. Yeah. So one option, therefore, when needs are unlimited, what fulfills needs are limited, you either fight for it or you fly away from it. Yeah. So when you fight or fly away from it, remember the paradigms that we decided for good and evil was it has to work for my need and it also had to work in the long term. This fight or flight, will this work in the long term? Probably not, because if you keep living in fear all the time, only your doctor's bills are going to increase. Yeah? You got stress and hypertension and everything. So the other option is the word called dharma. And dharma is really about my needs being fulfilled, your needs being fulfilled, not in the short term, but in the long term also. So if all of this has to happen, it happens not through a monologue, it happens through a dialogue where I give you something first, I ask you something in return. Then you give me something first, and you get something back from me. How does this feel that you've had this conversation? Feels good, no? It really feels good. It's just such a remarkable thing. And you don't, I'm assuming that most of you didn't tell each other your whole life story and everything. I mean, that would have taken a long time, given our age. But just in those 2-3 sentences that you shared, I'm guessing that some of you didn't even tell the other who the person was. Doesn't matter. Just doesn't matter. But just this gratitude is such a powerful tool. So, one of the reasons that we celebrate these festivals and we have rituals in these festivals is exactly for this, to work on gratitude. Yeah. And our ancients had given us a template for this gratitude as well. So at the basic level, you have gratitude towards what we are made of. What are we made of? Yeah, that's at a very scientific level. Gosh, IIT guys, I should rephrase this question. For a non-science graduate, what are we made of? Yeah, I like the philosophy words, but at a very simple level. But yeah, matter, right? And there are those 5 types, yeah, the Panchabhutas and all that. So at a very basic level, we are made of the fire and water and everything that's outside, which is also within us. Yeah. So the first level of gratitude that we need to show is to Bhuta Rina. Rina is the word for gratitude. So the first is Bhuta Rina. So you'll find in all our festivals, there will be some connection with the elements, fire, water, air. In many of the functions, we will also allow seeds to sprout. All of these are symbols for remembering that we need to be grateful for the 5 different parts of nature, which is outside and which is also inside. And the whole concept of yoga and everything is about how what's outside is inside, what's inside is outside. If you don't have that connection, then you're disconnected within yourself. So, Bhutarana, right? Over a period of time, as the Rig Veda transitioned into Yajurveda, the Iron Age started, people started creating implements, they started moving from nomadic life to agricultural life, and people started settling down. Sciences like astronomy also developed. People somewhere started to lose that sense of awesome awe towards nature. I mean, by then they realize, hey, come on, yeah, I know if the sun goes down today, it'll come back tomorrow. I know that moon suddenly disappears, but in 15 days it all comes back again. I know the tide goes away, but in 15 days it comes back again. I know the season somewhere or the other, okay, plus or minus there are a few days here and there, but the seasons seem to follow a course. The sun is also doing some solstice kind of thing. So that sense of wonderment that these things happen went on. I mean, it's like today, yeah, okay, I remember my son saw this absolutely gorgeous leopard that was attacking something, and it all happened in 3 minutes, and it finishes and we are all in awe, and he says, okay, what's next? I mean, the guide was saying, I have not seen this for 50 years that I've done in this room, but our impatience level is very high, right? So today itself, if it's like that, imagine how those days would have also been. So because we started losing this connection with nature, we had to have a via media. And any idea who those via medias were? No, one step before that.
Kings.
Nope. Gods, absolutely. All our gods became via medias. So Rigvedic deities, we have people like Manu and all. We don't even have a form. We don't even know gender. Right? We have Shiva, just means auspicious. Vishnu, the name even doesn't come. Agni is the number one. Agni is fire. Didn't really have the two faces that he got later. Indra was just water. Didn't have all those wives and all those stories about him. Nothing. All of these came much later as Iron Age happened, agriculture happened, people started settling down together. So we started having these new via media between nature and us, which were the gods. And the priests also came up. So the priests also needed somebody to talk to. So the priests and the gods talked where we should have been talking to nature directly. So you have, first is Bhutarana, the second is Devarana. Devarana is a debt that we owe to gods. Yeah? Then who do we have? So gods are all very, some of us have seen gods, some of us have not seen gods, or at least we think that we've seen gods. Little abstract concept, yeah? So who's somebody that we can relate to who've helped us become better people or become more comfortable? Well, one step before that. Guru is still your age. Parents are still your age. Like olden times. Rishis, right? So the third is the Rishis. So that is Rishi Rina. So I think mostly in our festivals we've kind of forgotten the Rishis. But if you dig a little deeper into certain festivals, you'll find stories of the Rishis, and this happened and that's why this happened. So Rishi Rina is a third level, yeah. Rishi is still very, very much at an abstract level. What could be something that's much more connectable for us? Right? Pitrus, yeah. So I can't remember who my rishis are, and I know Bharadwaja was the head of my clan, but really it doesn't mean anything to me. But at a very immediate emotional level, I can connect with my father, my grandparents, and I'm sure in many of your gratitude sharing, some of you would have had a parent or a grandparent. Yeah, many of us would have. Yeah, so very natural. And I've done this kind of a dialogue with some students, and somebody came up and said, for me, the person who I'm truly grateful for, I don't know about your rishis and all that, was a person who invented a cure for cancer. So I said, yeah, so in today's context, that person would be a rishi as well. Why not, yeah? So it's not just about philosophy, it's about medicine as well. So to each their own, and that's the beauty of our kind of culture, that you can constantly promote people to being rishis, and why not, yeah? So you have rishis, and then you have Pitrurana. And then finally, who are people who make things really enjoyable for us? Friends, absolutely, yeah. So people around us. And they're very relatable, right? I know you, you know me, so we know people around us, and that's really Manushirana. So you'll find Navaratri, for example, a lot of your conversations will be around with people who are going to come home, you're going to go there, and then you want this whole yajna to happen. That's really what Manushirana is about. So in Navaratri, and hopefully you'll see, as the gods, you'll see all the gods at the top. These bommes are made out of clay, which is so easily destroyable. So immediately your attention is towards how it's not just the image in clay, which is sacred, but it's the concept behind it. Because it's such a fragile thing that you're taking and keeping. There should be images of rishis in your Golu dolls. If not, maybe that's what you should buy this year. And you will certainly be thinking and hopefully talking about your parents and your ancestors, of how you celebrated Navaratri as a child. And certainly you can have a good time only if you call a few people home, or you go to a couple of people home, which is really what Manashirana is about. So in a very simple way, this whole concept of Navaratri or any other festival is about enjoying those karma that we have, to wear something nice and go out, to eat something nice, to touch something nice, to go and meet people, have fun, all of this, but also not get ensnared in all of that, right? Because all the time it's about senses will help us enjoy our life, but they can also imprison us. So all of this concept of the Renas is to help us remember. Of course, we should enjoy our life. I mean, what's the point of having an evening like this if you don't have good food, you have the AC, you have some good meal waiting for us and some intelligent conversation? Really what good life is all about. But this can't be everything. There should be something beyond this also. I can't, whatever tasty stuff that they've made for us today, we can't be gorging on that 3 times a day. It's not going to help our diets, our health in any way. So it's important to also be restrained about it. And that's really what festivals are all about. So it's about how we can fulfill our needs. We can also fulfill the needs of others in the short term and in the long term. Recognize that these needs will really make our lives more enjoyable, more pleasurable, but at the same time, not get carried away with these needs. And use these times to also focus on being grateful to nature, to the gods, to the rishis and people who helped us a lot, and to our ancestors. And hopefully we'll see all of these people through people that we meet on a daily basis, who are really the people who are here to support us at a very tangible level. So I hope you've got some understanding of how you can look at Navaratri. Of course, it can also be about wearing lovely clothes and going and visiting people and eating sundal, but it can also be about something like this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Pradeep. Maybe a few questions especially from the youngsters.
Did she put you in a spot? I'll ask you guys a question. What made the most sense to you out of this half an hour that we did fair bit of participation today, which was good, yeah. What made most sense? Go ahead.
This guy sounds good that Navaratri is about having sundar and all that.
Okay. Sure, why not? Okay. To each their own. Sounds good. I think we need to do the next thing, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you again. Thanks for the participation. Of course, very, very well done.
Yes, it was.
Thanks, Pradeep.
It would have been a really, really boring session.
Request our alumnus, Vishy, to please come and honor the guest. Please give a big round of applause to Dr. Pradeep. So we'll take a small break for chai. Yeah. And I don't know, Pradeep, if it meets your expectations of all the various. So please join us. More importantly, as he mentioned, we are here together and let all the conversations spark. Hopefully join us for the chai at the adjacent terrace. I also want to acknowledge Vidya and Subra, who have opened up the space for us, this beautiful space, and so we can have more events here. So do join us for the chai, and then we come back with 3 amazing performances. 3 middle schoolers who are going to enthrall us with music. So do come back after the chai, don't run away.
Set it up for you. Hi. Oh, okay. You are expecting something extra. Right.